everyone, it's Tox from CritsHappen.com. Thanks for watching and welcome back. Today we've got a very short but very fun critical review pre-Gen Con of a game that we are going to be giving away on our website right now. If you go to CritsHappen.com and you look in the upper right, there's going to be a link for this contest. This is our Rule the Rails contest and our review of Trains from Alderac Entertainment Group. AEG makes fun, and this is one big giant heavy box filled with fun. Now, I'm not going to be able, because of timing with Gen Con and all of our other projects we have going on, to be able to do a full, show you the board, show you all the cards. But I have some graphics that I'm going to overlay as I talk about this and give you a little bit of an idea about it. So let's first talk about the gameplay. This is a deck building game at its base, but it's a deck building game that uses a board, and it's a double-sided board. And what's going to happen is, instead of just building up a deck that's going to have a bunch of victory points in it, you're going to build up a deck that's going to maximize your actions and allow you to interact with the board and place train tracks down, getting you from city to city or city to remote location that's going to provide you victory points at the end of the game. At the end of the game, there's a combination of things that are going to provide you victory points. In the main center area where you can buy cards, there's going to be 3 cards that you could buy that would allow you to gain victory points just from the cards being in your deck. Those are going to be apartments, towers, and skyscrapers. They're good, but they're going to provide you waste when you buy them. We'll talk a little bit more about waste in a second. The second way is by getting a bonus for remote locations. If you've been able to build rails to a remote location, which is a hexagon on the board that has a star and a number inside of it, you'll get the victory points based on what's in that star. So it's just straight up victory points by getting to that location. Then the final way is being in cities that have stations built in them. At the end of the game, each city that you have a train track in that has no stations is worth 0 points. If it has 1 station, it's worth 2 points. 2 stations are 4 points, and 3 stations are 8 points. So the more stations you can build, the better it's going to be. But beware, because aside from paying gold to be able to lay tracks in different terrain areas and having different costs per terrain, the cities, if they have stations built in them ahead of time, or if you're trying to go into an area that already has someone else's tracks and stations, are also going to cost you more. The thing that's beautiful about this is that there is a mix of cards that are always available and a mix of cards that are going to vary every game, and there's a lot. Every game is going to have 16 stacks of cards. 8 of them are going to be the same every game, and they're going to be a mixture of those victory point cards you buy, the waste that you're going to collect, and then some basic trains and some basic actions between laying tracks and being able to place stations. But then there are a ton of other cards that you're going to randomize and pick 8 each game that are going to offer you more trains, more actions, more laying rail options, and different things to combine to make your deck more efficient. Now, that's the setup, and it sounds very easy, and it is very easy. The fun part is when you get into the strategic choices of what you're going to do. Let's talk a little bit about the cards and the card types inside of Trains. So the obvious main card type are trains. Those are blue. They're going to have a train in the middle, and they're going to have a gold cost in the upper right and a gold provided in the upper left. So every time you play them from your hand, they're going to provide you gold that is listed in the upper left. If you acquire them from the center area, their cost is in red on the upper right. But then in addition, some trains are going to have abilities on them that will take place in an action that will take place immediately. Some will give you something until the end of turn, some will give you victory points, some will interact with other cards, and just offer you a lot of different options. Then you get into the bulk of the main things that will happen on your turn, which are actions, which are red cards. These are cards that are going to be part of those 8 that are randomized every game. You're going to have access to a limited amount of them, but they're going to make a big impact into the game between allowing you to draw from your deck, to reorganize the top part of your deck so that you know what's coming, to be able to maybe get more money or get discounts on things. And they do a really good job of interacting with both the deck and the board, and that's probably the coolest aspect of the balance of all those actions. Then there's some additional green cards, which are laying tracks. Anything that's green is going to make you or give you the ability to lay tracks. And when we're talking about laying tracks, we're talking about taking the wooden cubes and placing those onto an adjacent hex to any cube that's already on the board. At the beginning of the game, each player starts in one city, and then you build out from there. Unlike something like Ticket to Ride, where you could lay tracks here and lay tracks here and then pull your system together, this is going to allow you to only build out from adjacent hexes. So you can build out and go in one way, you can branch out from there and go in multiple ways, but you can't start on two separate sides and come together. The main object of the green cards that you'll be able to acquire that will let you lay tracks is they're going to discount based on the terrain. Meaning if it would normally cost me 2 gold to go through a mountain, I could play a tunnel card and go through a mountain at no cost, if that makes sense. That's the other thing about this game, is it's dripping, absolutely dripping with theme. Then you get into the waste, which gets a little bit more into our dripping with theme. If you're thinking about this in terms of your deck is your train company and you're the owner of that company and you're making it more efficient, the waste is the byproduct of making it more efficient and building things. Whether you build stations, skyscrapers, lay tracks, whatever you do is going to involve waste. Waste is not good. You don't want waste. It clogs up your deck, it gets in your way, and it slows you down. There is the ability to completely get rid of waste, though, either by taking a full action on your turn to get rid of all the waste in your hand and put it back into the center area, or there's a lot of action cards that let you get rid of waste in efficient manners. There's even a freight train card that will let you discard waste from your hand and get money for it. So there's going to be a lot of different options every game as to how to manage that waste in your deck. And it actually is a very fun mechanic in the game to be able to not just interact with the board, but interact with your deck and learn how you're going to maximize the efficiency of it and interacting with the board, which is really cool. And then finally there's those yellow cards, which are the apartment, the tower, and the skyscraper, which you're going to be able to buy and acquire and get victory points straight up for those at the end of the game. And those are the different types of cards. Let's talk a little bit about some strategies around using all this together. So the strategies inside of trains are abundant. There are a lot of different things that you can do, both to maximize your deck and maximize your position on the board, but also to interact with your opponents. One of the most fun things that I love about this game is that it really does put you in a position of deck building with interaction. There's not a lot of solo or solitaire feel to this. There's a lot of times where I've played games where I've wanted to build up stations completely away from me. When you're building stations, it doesn't have to be in an area that you have tracks laid in. You can put them wherever you want. So I've laid like landmines in other people's areas of the board where it's going to cost them more money to go into that area. Now, there's a risk because it gives them more victory points possibly, but it slows them down. And it's a really interesting strategy to enact. There's also a lot of things to do between maximizing the efficiency of your deck with actions, money, and different card abilities that are going to work to stack the deck in your favor, but then also timing when you're going to use those actions to expand on the board. And that's really where a lot of the fun comes in. There are so many different strategic choices to make in this game. Do I expand? Do I build my deck? Do I do a little of both? Do I mess with my opponent? Do I leave my opponent alone and then worry about building up more money for later in the game to be able to lay tracks and expand into their area? There's just so many different strategies. It makes it absolutely wonderful. So let's talk about some final thoughts here. So we look at 3 things. We look at components, we look at gameplay, and we look at the experience. And I'm going to tell you before I get into any one of those 3, this game is an absolute crit of a game. I have had no more fun with any other deck builder than Trains. In fact, right now it is my favorite deck building game on the market, and in my opinion completely blows up the genre in how it works and what it does with what it does. It's just absolutely beautiful of a game. Whether you like Trains or not, it's dripping with theme. The things work together. When you start to see all these different cards between signals and the command office and the freight train and how all of it works, you feel, even people that we played with that didn't like trains as a theme, they all walked away like, yeah, I felt like I was running a train company. And it was really cool. Even though each game was different, it gave them that feeling of, okay, I'm immersed in this world. The other thing too is the art is excellent. Todd Rowland was the art director on this, and he did a great job of picking art that is light It's not like when I first heard about trains, I thought it was going to be like grimy, honestly. I thought maybe a couple of bullet trains, a couple of red Santa Fe trains, and like that was it. The artwork is really, really good. They've done a great job between all the actions, all the trains, of just dripping that theme right off the cards right into your lap. I mean, it just does a great job with that. But the components themselves are wonderful. The cards, great quality. The artwork is beautiful. The board is phenomenal and easy to read and easy to look at. Although some of the names of the cities may be hard for us to be able to say for those of us in the U.S. because we're not familiar with them. I'm sure when you look at the expansion options of this, there are more maps, more cards, just as Todd would probably say, or anyone at AEG would say, more fun. Now, when you get into the gameplay, we've already talked a lot about some of the gameplay things. The things that I love, highly strategic choices, just really not go after the most expensive card choices. You're going to be handling things like, okay, I could do this or I could do that. You're not ever stuck in analysis paralysis, but there's good choices. Do I build my deck and get it bigger this turn? Do I take a turn and get rid of a lot of waste because I just picked up a lot more building something on a previous turn? Do I expand in the map? Do I expand in my direction? Do I expand in my opponent's direction? Do I interact with my opponent this turn? Do I do something that's going to make them pay more money or cost them later on in turns and slow them down? There's so many good strategic choices that every single game is different. And we even tried the same cards, the same starting locations, everything the same from game to game, and it still provided different experiences based on the choices that you're going to make and the choices your opponents make. And that just makes for a great time. And that leads me to the final point, which is around the experience and with the engagement. And this game just reaches in, grabs you, throws you on the train, and shoots you down the track. I mean, there are so many different times that you're engaging with your opponents and you're strategizing around what they do and where they build. And especially at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, there's so much tension and healthy tension. And I love this part of the game. You get to a part of the game and the game can end in a couple of different ways. You can end by placing all the station tokens, or you can end by 4 stacks of cards being bought, or you can end by one player having all of their cubes placed out onto the board. And when you start to see that happening, there are so many like just tense moments of, oh, okay, I gotta get this to get these like extra points. I gotta be able to get this done. I gotta draw this right card. I gotta get this right. They're gonna do this. And there's times where you may think they're rushing to end the game, but they may not be because they may be in the same position. They just need to use those resources to move things around. There's just great end of game moments when it comes to how this game plays out. So overall, I cannot say it enough. Trains is a phenomenal game. I will go as far as to say it is the most fun game I have played this year. It is the most exciting times I've had playing a deck building game. And in my opinion right now, it is the best deck building game on the market. We have played it multiple times already. I know whoever wins our contest at critshappen.com is going to have an absolute blast with this game. And if you aren't in the contest, go enter. If you don't win, check it out at Gen Con. If you can't get to Gen Con, check it out online at aeg.com or alderac.com. They have just a ton of information out there, and it looks to be one of the most fun games going into the con and one of the most fun games for the latter half of this year. We've had an absolute blast. We'd like to thank AEG for providing us a copy of this to review for you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you had a chance to read the rulebook? Have you had a chance to play this? What do you think? Feel free to leave your comments below on the YouTube channel. Of course, you can join in the discussion on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Google Plus by searching Crits Happen or at our homepage at critshappen.com. But until we see you next time, enter the contest. Good luck to everybody. We hope you enjoy all of your rail riding times inside of trains. Thanks so much for watching. Keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits.